Hey friends, welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to share with you our lithium battery install, including our AGM Starter Battery and our DC-to-DC charger. It might get quite technical, so if you feel the need to jump around to specific parts of the install, you can check it out right here. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We're going to jump right into our wiring diagram with Matt. Let's go.
Okay, the wiring diagram. So before we started the battery install, I had a hard time figuring it all out because, I guess every boat's different, but there's not a lot of diagrams out there that explain this type of setup with a lead acid starter battery, or AGM, with a generator and a lithium bank. So let's look at this, the diagram. So we have a pin that doesn't work. Hold on, there we go. So we have our DC panel, and this is our distribution panel, the one that goes to all the lights, the fridge, and it's essentially all of the other 12 volt appliances and electronics in the boat. So what we've installed is a lithium bank, 4 batteries, and each battery is a 100 amp hour with a total of 400 amp hours. It's somewhere around, I think, 4,200 watts, I believe. Might be 52. Anywho, there we go. So this is our lithium bank. It's brand new from Rebel Batteries. Pretty cool. In addition, so let's go. We're going to go through the setup real quick and show you where all the wiring goes, and then we'll look at the install. So here is first connection off this positive. We're just going to draw all the positives here. This is a 225, might be 250 amp fuse, and it runs into here a bus bar. Okay, and then of course the bus bar goes to a switch, and the switch goes to the DC panel. On the hot side of this switch is a hot wire that goes to the bilge, and I think there is a hot wire that goes to the windlass. So the bilge and the windlass are all ready to go. They do have breakers on them built in, but we'll just leave that off the diagram. Okay. What's next? We do have space for solar panels. We don't have those installed yet, but what we did install is the MPPT charger for these panels. And this MPPT charger goes on to this bus bar. All right. That's one way that the lithium iron phosphate batteries get charged. There is over here our Yanmar diesel, and we installed a AGM battery for the starter battery. So essentially it goes from the Yanmar. We have another switch here that's just an on-off switch. And this switch actually goes to the starter, and it comes from the starter battery. Alright, totally separate circuit. These used to be connected when we had all lead acid batteries, but we've since disconnected these two switches. This was a 3-way switch. We disconnected it, and now we have 2 separate switches. Okay, so in addition to the 12 volt battery, we have to be able to charge it. So we have shore power, and we have generator. Okay, and they're both 120 volts, and they run a Xantrax True Charge 2. Okay, and this is 20 amps. And this comes from either the generator or shore power, and it converts it to power to charge the AGM. Additionally, we have a lead acid battery for the generator. All right, so that charges, that's the generator starter. It also gets charged from the Xantrax. Okay. So we had a problem with this setup as is. The shore power with the 20 amp Xantrax charger, we called Xantrax, and we asked them if it would charge lithium. They said yes, but it's not designed for it. Put it on an AGM setting and it will charge the lithium batteries. Well, I put it on the AGM setting, and that's why I also got an AGM starter battery instead of just a lead acid. It wouldn't fully charge the lithiums. It just didn't put out enough volts. The lithiums need to be charged at 14.2, 14.4, 14.6 max. And the Xantrax maximum put out 13.6. So the Xantrax charger just surely didn't work. We'll show you how we solved that problem later on in the episode when we go through the install. And thanks Rebel Batteries, Eric, for helping us with that. But we also solved it by adding another device, and this is the DC-to-DC charger. Let's look at that. And this is the last piece of the wiring diagram. So this DC-DC charger is 30 amp Victron DC-to-DC charger. And essentially what this does is when there's a current, either from an alternator or from shore power, when there's a current going into this battery and it gets above a certain voltage, I think I have it set like at 12.8, then what it does is it activates this charger. Okay, and there is a fuse here, an A&L fuse, and then this charger runs current over into my bus bar for the lithium batteries, and that's it. It's a very simple device. The last piece to the wiring diagram is the metering system. We have a smart shunt here, and the smart shunt is connected to the negatives of the batteries. We'll just put a negative sign so you can see. It's also connected to the negative of the panels. However, it's connected through the previous analog shunt that we have. So there's two metering systems. Shunt. But it comes through right here. And then this DC-DC charger has a negative. And it's on the system side of the shunt. So we have this feeding the Bluetooth information. We also have a smart sense device here, and that's measuring voltage and temperature. This is measuring current, voltage, temperature, and historical trends. This measures current in the moment. It also pulls the negative from the AGM, and we'll just kind of put a ground right there. That means negative. And so we can read all the batteries from either direction using different devices there. And that's the basic setup. I hope the wiring diagram is helpful. Now we're going to go through the install of the batteries, the cables, the chargers. So feel free to jump around if you like. Here's another menu for you. And next up is placement of the lithium batteries, building the actual wood platforms that the devices are going to go onto, and then installing the cables. So let's get to it. Today we are installing the lithium batteries. Fingers crossed, we got to figure out how to fit them in first. All right. So originally I thought of doing this. I thought we would go
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. And that could be strapped into the wall there, right?
Yeah, it could be.
But its weight is rubbing there, and
Yeah, you got that rub point
After-
on the side.
2 years you're gonna have problems.
It'll rub a hole.
So- Next off was this. Here. Build a base.
Yeah.
But still you're gonna have some of the problem, aren't you? So, and the fourth battery will go in an actual battery box, plastic battery box, right here. Ultimately, we figured out we're gonna place 3 of the batteries inside this storage box, and we're gonna place the fourth one in a battery box compartment, little battery box, plastic one, right here.
They'll all be secured down with straps. We have to go to the store, get a little bit of wood to do a few mounting pieces. This keeps the bank close together so we don't have you know, unequal wire runs between the batteries. We won't have any charging problems. They'll all be together. Okay, we just made it back from the store. We have all the components we need, battery box, and this will be for the install of the 4th lithium house battery. And we bought a cranking battery. So we're gonna make sure we mount these in the right spots right now. And we're gonna try the cranking battery to make sure it runs the actual engine.
Here to here to drop it in there.
Oh yeah.
So it's not gonna be in the way.
Bus bar. We're gluing or epoxying the wood to the fiberglass. We can't screw it in because it's the hull. So,
Go back and get the battery out. The middle one comes out first. This one slides over and comes out.
Yep. It's not going to be a good flat surface to epoxy all this on. I could use fiberglass and resin over it, and that would be a good way of doing it. But I'm going for the quick epoxy route. I'm going to leave the bare wood. It should last plenty of years. But because the surface is not flat, I'm going to cut it, and we're going to have modular pieces of woods so that each component of the system will fit on its own piece of epoxied wood. Now, we're going to take these old 4D batteries out. We don't need these lead acids anymore. We'll give them away. But we're going to label all of the wires before we disconnect them. And that way it'll be easy to make sense of the spaghetti once they're all disconnected. To replace them with a simple AGM for the starter. However, we do need power tonight. We're not going to finish the job today. So I'm going to leave this battery in to power us through the night. But we will replace this one and get that ready to roll. It looks like it's a negative symbol.
Ready?
I'm just gonna like drag you with the hair.
Okay.
You can set them
Out with the old and in with the new.
That's
Lithium this size will be
right.
30 pounds. This has got to be 80 pounds. Or more, don't you think?
Or more.
So if you're getting 160 pounds off the boat, you're gonna be floating
It's
high.
gonna be floating high. We gotta put something back in there. This was down low. This was good weight. There we go. All right. Here we go. Woo!
Considering you're not behind the battery, they may not do it. And this thing just goes straight on out.
We just removed these dual purpose starting and deep cycle batteries. They're group 4D. There's 2 of them. Reserve capacity 290. 1280 cranking amps. Way more cranking amps, way more reserve capacity than the Yanmar needs to start. Yanmar 40 horsepower only needs 80 reserve hours to crank. And it rates it based on reserve hours because in theory, the starter battery is a continuous supply setting, even though it pulls a large cranking amount. I don't understand all that. That's the only thing I do know. Okay, so we have the Walmart brand AGM 4-year free replacement, plenty of cranking amps. It has 70 amp hours. That is a little bit short, about 12% short of what the Yanmar says. So we're actually going to test it right now, make sure it cranks. It's got plenty of cranking amps. However, the Yanmar was a 2004. I believe those specs are for a flooded lead acid battery. So I believe this will perform better and give us more than we need. So we'll see how that works. I also chose the AGM specifically because we have a Xantrax True Charge 2, and we called Xantrax, and Xantrax said AGM setting is the setting for charging lithium. It's not perfect, but it will do the job, particularly if we supplement with solar, which we plan on doing. So we figured it'll play nicely between the 2 banks. The True Charge can charge more than 1 bank. So this will be 1 bank, and then our lithium house bank, excuse me, lithium house bank will also be another bank. And they'll both be working on the lithium, the AGM setting. So,
Drop it in.
oh my God. Ultimately, it's gonna sit there. Let's get a look at that. And now, look at that storage. You can see the size of my foot. You got about 5 feet there. 5 of my feet. The depth of that. I mean, it's up to my shin. We're going to use these light duty anchor points. I don't know what light duty is, but these are 600 pounds. We're going to use 2 of them. Okay, 1, 2. We're going to place them, one of them here on this side of the battery, one down on this side of the battery on the actual fiberglass. And then we're going to connect a strap across the top of the battery. That'll hold the battery down for any healing forces that come to play. And we'll put a strap across the same anchor points across the front of the battery here to keep the battery from sliding. Yeah, it's just to protect it, isn't it? Crank this on, and we're going to see if this AGM is strong enough to start the Yanmar. Let's give it a shot. Here's the switch. On. Connect it to the alternator, connect it to the battery. Let's try this Yanmar. All you have to do is turn the switch, and let's see if it turns on. That's good. You turned it off?
I did.
Okay. I'm gonna get the fire hydrant in case something screws up.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right, let's try again. This time turn the Yanmar on. Let's see what happens. Yep. It worked. High five. Hey, it worked. It worked.
Turn it off?
Yeah, we can turn it off. All right, so this is the most challenging part of this lithium install. I have another component called a smart shunt that's going to help me measure voltage, charge, and other metrics for my battery bank here. But ultimately, the difficult part of it is planning ahead. So where do I mount this component? Where do I place it and still have room for other components? We're going to use this wall, and this is where we're going to mount the positive components, okay, of the positive side of the DC circuit. So we have that all planned out. That's what I have to work on now. Come to there, positive, and the negative will come out through into my negative post. Perfect. Anywhere, this needs some tension on it, although it's getting side tension. Not bad. All right, this is like the 4th time in the last 2 days that I'm heading to Blackburn Marine. But you know, I'm at the end of the project here, wrapping a few things up, and it seems like, since I'm a rookie, never did the wiring before, anything that I missed on the initial planning, now I'm discovering it here as I'm wrapping things up. So, lessons learned. Here we are. Now, we're making our own wires. It's as simple as measuring out the length we need. Drew a little diagram here.
The sunset is yes, that's it.
Okay, so we are in the very final stages here. I'm finally hooking all of the power sources together. This whole compartment is now a battery compartment. All right, so now we have the Smart Battery Sense. So Lyle from SunPower Yacht sent me this with my solar plan. So what it's going to do is got the powered here to the positive and then hook to the negative terminal. And it's going to read the voltage and temperature of this one battery. So we're going to take this adhesive backing off and we're going to stick it to the side of the battery. I'm going to have a read off of this smart sensor on the Victron app. And of course, all of my Victron devices will also be read on that app place. The Bluetooth on the actual Rebel batteries, these are going to be more for troubleshooting if we have any problems, and then I'll log into each specific battery. It's cool that I can turn it off and it's not taking any of the battery amp hours. So here's the Victron app and we can see Smart Battery Sense. It's connecting. And there's the battery voltage. 13.3, not now, 13.3 volts on this battery bank. I can actually flip apps now. Let me go ahead and turn this one on. And let's see what the actual battery is. So now we're going to go straight into the Rebel battery app. This is my battery here. It's showing 0 current. Okay, so 0 current is coming out of the batteries. Amp hours. Okay. We can flip that back to the video. Is 13.5 volts. That's the average voltage across the 4 cells. Lesson learned, shunts are typically larger terminals than the M8 battery lugs. So they're 5/16 for the batteries, but the shunts are much larger. So, little Dremel, and this is what's left with the stone bit. This is all I have left. Hopefully we can get these last 2 terminals finished, and we'll get it wrapped up here.
Father. In return of water, I shall give you dishes. Clean ones. Good ones. Not dirty ones. My throat hurts.
Okay, do you remember, Eric, the Rebel batteries? Well, we had some problems. I have the batteries all installed and went on anchor for 3 nights, and the batteries performed great. They were everything I expected from them. Problems came when we got back to shore with my charger, and that's a Xantrax True Charge 2. Their customer support at Xantrax is excellent. I'll go out and we'll show you the charger. It's just excellent customer support. Very knowledgeable, but they're not. Their limit comes when you start talking lithium. This charger and their support wasn't knowledgeable enough to really guide me through the lithium charging. The problem is my charger only gets to about 13.2 volts. The lithium batteries need 14.6 to get all the way up to a full charge. So here's the charger, and Eric warned me when we first purchased the battery. we first purchased the batteries that the charger might not work. He was, you know, it's not his charger, he's not familiar with it. But he warned me of the chemistry difference, the voltage requirements. And so we gave it a shot, and it got me to about 40% state of charge on the batteries, 40 to 50. Which is not enough. So today we're installing, well, so Eric came out yesterday, very gracious, just to look things over, make sure it wasn't the batteries, and it wasn't, they were great. And he brought me this lithium charger. It's by Expert Power, 20 amps. We turned it on for about 6 hours yesterday, and it topped the batteries back off, so they're all at 100%. Today we're installing the second piece to our charging situation, the Victron Energy non-isolated DC-DC charger. And this will put out up to 15 volts, which is perfect for my lithium. And let's say I'm running the engine, the Yanmar, and it's putting the alternator charge into the starter batteries. This will register that the starter batteries are topped off and there's a surplus current, and it'll feed that over to the lithiums essentially. It'll crank up and give 30 amps right here. This is a fuse holder, and it's got a 60 amp fuse. Essentially, fuse goes here, bolt it on, the wires go in and out. That's going to mount right here. It's a very simple device. You put your wire in here and you hit the top with a hammer. 2 solid hits should produce the crimp. At least that's what they showed me on YouTube, so I bought it. Let's fix it. That's an on-off switch to disconnect it from the engine. It's got the charger from the shore power charger, and now it has 3 cables coming on it, and now it has the DC to DC charger. It goes through the fuse block and towards the charger. Right now it's missing the fuse. Alright, so the fuse is in.
All the way in.
Let's tighten that back down. Alright, Victron Connect.
There you go.
So we have our battery smart sense, our smart shunt, and now we have, this one is the Orion smart charger. Okay. Let's check it out and see what's happening. Output is disabled due to a remote input inactive. That's good. We don't want it to be on right now. Right now we're just going to configure the settings. Battery preset. We're going to increase this to 14.4 because that's what Eric recommended. They can take up to 14.6. We're going to start there. I guess we'll save that. We'll call it Lithium 1. It's our first time. Orion output cable. That's this cable here, and this comes behind the battery box through the hole and right into our positive bus bar, which electrifies the house, also the lithium battery bank. 3, 2, 1. All right, that's it. Question is, why is it not on? That's because we don't have the engine on. And the DC-DC charger runs when the engine's running. We're going to turn the lithium bank on. It's off right now. Lithium bank is on. All the electronics are on now. Now we're going to start the Yanmar. And we're going to see if Orion can do his job. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Keys.
That's the neighbor's pump. I'm nervous. Are you ready? Yanmar's on. It might take a minute for the voltage to get up. Oh, it's on now. What? It's on. It's blinking. What does blinking mean? It's on. Nancy is on. 24 amps going into battery 2. Let's turn on these batteries. This is the battery number 1905. Let's see what's happening at 1905. It's got 5 amps going into it. 5.8 amps. Yeah. It's been charging for the last, yeah, it's going to be charged in 50 seconds, but it's already almost full. It's got 5 amps coming into it from the DC-DC charger! High five. Oh yeah, Livy, or Nancy. Mocha, high five. Yeah! So we're using the Blue Sea Systems bus bar to organize all of our positive DC wires from the battery bank, chargers, and future chargers that will be coming into here. Super simple to use, sturdy structure. Just undo these tabs, remove the plastic cover, which keeps items from short-circuiting the... You've got 4 terminals. Each terminal can take 4 lugs. And so here we have the battery bank coming in. The battery bank will be coming out here to the main DC panel. And then this will be used for AC charger inverters. And this one will be used for solar charger inverters. Of course, you can use them for anything that you need. It's a cool, cool system to help keep things organized, clean, and actually safe. That's the Blue Sea Systems Maxi Bus. The next piece that's going to go in the system is a fuse block. ABYC standards say 7 inches from the battery should be a fuse. Most boats don't even have that. But we are going to go with this. It's an A and L fuse block. Again, the standards say a T-class fuse block, which is the fastest burning fuse. This is the most common fuse though, so we're going to kick with this. It'll be perfect. And we're going to fit this on here, and this protects the wires from any type of high amp current that could melt the wire. This is rated for 80% of the wire rating. So the wires, the cables that I'm using are 1/0. I believe they're rated about 280 something amps, 282, something like that, 102 degrees Celsius. And we're going to be using a 225 or a 250 amp fuse, which will be more than my circuit will be providing. So this won't bust with the circuit, but it would bust in a freak accident where there's too much current coming down. This will bust before the wire melts. All right, so this is the Victron Energy Smart Shunt 500 amp version, 500 amp version. Very simple setup. It's got 2 terminals here. One connects to the battery negative, and one goes to the negative bus bar for your system, or the negative ground for your system, or the negative, where all the negatives go, okay? Runs a simple current through there, and this device on the front here is connected to Bluetooth, and it analyzes the data and tells you voltage running through in the system, and helps you monitor the batteries. You can hook it up multiple ways. You can hook it up on the end battery. You can also, with these little green connections, one is going to go to the positive on this battery. Okay? Now, the auxiliary allows me to measure another battery. That could be another battery in the bank, which then allows me to get an average of the final and the midpoint, which is might be a better gauge of what's happening overall in the system. Or I can run this other battery to a different battery, totally different system in the boat. So it has different ways to set it up. Very simple. and just another way to monitor what's happening with your bank. This is a fuse holder, and it's got a 60 amp fuse. Essentially, fuse goes here, bolt it on, the wires go in and out. That's going to mount right here.
Oh, it's,
Wide or super wide?
it's recording you. I guess it works. 90.
Got a beautiful little stripper here.
Thanks.
Today we're installing the second piece to our charging situation. The Lithium. The Lithium. I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm all blah blah blah.
It's cooking.